Well, I might as well get started. I think there's some people who are going to be coming, and it's a little after 12. Really, really good to see you guys. You guys watch my microphone. But I'm so glad you could come and, tell your friends. There's not a lot of diabetes classes out there. So a lot of people think that, we're just going to wait until next year or something. So if you know other people who are interested in diabetes education, have them call and come for free. I think there might be one on the main line, but I think it's like a $40 or $80 copay, and it's 3 classes at night and all this 3-hour things. So come see me every Wednesday from 12 to 1 and tell your friends, because we got lots of chairs. So today so the first week we talked about general diabetes. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Kirsten with Ambler Nutrition. I'm contracted to work with Center on the Hill and tell everybody about diabetes education. Right now is a great time to have diabetes as opposed to 10 or 20 years ago. We have so much more different medicines, and we know so much more about how your body works. And it's not just all about food, although this is the nutrition part of it. So, you know, well, actually, you guys probably already remember. Do you remember some other ways that you can increase your blood sugar if other than just having carbohydrates?
Oh, the exercise, right?
Yep, in the beginning, you'll have exercise that will increase your blood sugar, and then after about 15 minutes, it reduces it. What about bad traffic? Stress. Stress will increase your blood sugar. And illness, like even whether you twist your ankle or if I can't really see with this mask. If you twist your ankle or if you have a toothache. My what? That's right. When you wake up in the morning, you have a lower blood sugar. But if you don't get any food during those 2 hours after that, blood sugar goes up, and it can go up dramatically, 20, 30 points. What are some other ways? You remember anything else? Stress, sickness.
You're talking about the surface, trying to get the surface more open or something.
Oh yeah, when you exercise, then the surface of the cells get more of the insulin receptor doors. Yep. And something else about exercise, in our every cell is a mitochondria, and the mitochondria make energy for us out of phosphorus and stuff. So if, like in the morning when you wake up, your cells don't have very many mitochondria. But if you do go for a walk and you get out of breath, then the cells can make more mitochondria, and it gives you more energy. So at the end of the day, when, oh, we look at your watch, so what did I do today? I didn't do a thing. I was just on the phone or on the computer the whole day. After dinner, try to get up and go around the block. You just go around the backyard, go around your building, whatever it is. I had one woman who lived on the 3rd floor, and she'd walk down the 3rd floor on the side, horizontal. She'd go down to the 2nd floor, walk the whole way, go down the 1st floor, walk the whole way, and then go out. But she would see everybody in the building. But that was a good way for her to, get some exercise. And you're doing the stairs. And it would take, I don't know, half an hour, 15 minutes. Maybe it would take an hour if she got to talking with somebody. But that's really a good way to increase our energy by moving around. We get more mitochondria in the cells, and also we get more insulin receptors on every cell. So then the sugar in our blood can go into the cells, and it's all good. So we have in the beginning here, it says, I don't know if you can read this, the A, B, and C of the diabetes. Do you remember the ABCs? Like, do you remember what A stands for?
A1C.
Yep. And what is a good range for A1C?
5.7 to 6.5.
That would be the pre-diabetes section. That would be really great. I like that.
You want to keep it below 7.5?
That would be good. Yes, absolutely. 7.5. The difference between 6.5 and 7.5, all these different complications are pretty much the same. So this is after age, I believe it's after age 60. But I'm also seeing things, it might even be younger than that. So we really pushing people to get below 6 really doesn't change that much. So yeah, think about 7.5 is a good one. But once I have this one patient, she goes, oh, it's only 11. That's only 2 points higher than 9. That's only 4 points. I'm like, 4 points is huge. We're talking about 5.7 to 6.5, or anything 6.5 to 7.5. And well, so she was new to diabetes, and she had just had surgery. So everything was a little bit out of whack. But we'll see when she works, she'll probably get back down to 7.5 or something like that. So the A is A1C. Do you remember A1C, what that is actually measuring on the red blood cells?
3 months or so. Isn't it?
right? The blood cells
Or something comes.
The blood cells only last for 3 months. That's right. And they get frosted. Swimming around in all that sugary blood, the frosting sticks on there. And how, yeah, frosted flakes. That's right. How much frosting is it? So is it, are you looking at, 5.5% frosting, 6.5% frosting, 7.5% frosting, 11% frosting? That's a lot of frosting. So you want to reduce your blood sugar if you're up that high. The B is for blood pressure. Does anybody know what?
80, 20,
I know.
80 over 20 or.
I think it's 140 over 90. And at 140 over 90, your doctor's supposed to talk to you about medicine. If you're 130 over 80, the doctors are talking to people about medicine, but they say that that's still a safe zone. So 130 over 80. So
What was the old one? That 120, 120 something?
yeah, yeah. This is the drug companies trying to get everybody to get on the medicine. We don't need to have medicine that low. So yeah, I think they bumped it to 130 over 80, and that was probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago. And then they're like, wait a minute, even 140 over 90, you're doing pretty good. So here's some. What? Go ahead.
Depends on your age. Like, I mean, you're younger, you're going to have better blood pressure, right?
I don't think so.
What if you get in 60, 70, and 80?
So they're finding that people in Asia who don't have a lot of meat and fat and salt in their diets, they actually do have a lot of salt, their blood pressure goes down as they age. So it doesn't have to do with age. So in the United States, as we get older, our blood pressure goes up. But when the people are having more vegetables in their life and basing their meals off of vegetables, not off of, let's face it, chicken. Everybody's having so much chicken. They're finding those people are having lower blood pressure as they live. So yeah, it's really not about the age. Yeah, some kids have a lot of stress in their life and a lot of salt and a lot of fat. And, they might be on blood pressure medicine before they're 18, which is insane, but, it's getting better. So really, it's really that 140 over 90. I think it's even not so much they have to both be, because you could have 110, but if you have 110 over 90, then yeah, you need a certain blood pressure medicine. Or you could be 140 over 65 or 70. So it's really, if any of those numbers.
The top one or the bottom
Both.
one?
So really, if you have a 140 in anything, or if you have 90 at the lower one for anything. I can't remember, but I think you're right. I think it's the top number gets it through your body, but the bottom number gets it to your lungs. So, you know how it's dunk. So it's, the lungs in the body and the lungs in the body, and it catches up and all that kind of thing. So there's that.
So
Let's
the
see.
next one is cholesterol.
Yeah, cholesterol. And they're finding that another way to find out if people have diabetes is whether their LDL is under 99 or below. If it's 99 or below, you don't have diabetes. They don't even check the A1C. Apparently, this A1C test is like $140, $170. So the doctors are hesitant to do it, or the insurance is hesitant to cover for it. But if you have higher cholesterol, then they will do the A1C.
Is the L is the lousy one? Is that?
That's a sticky one.
You gotta have L under 99.
Under 99. 99 or below. Yeah. They want it under 100. Yeah. If you're
That number keeps going down over the years too. It was higher years ago, and they want to even lower.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
so you can't get low enough.
No, you can. I've had some people who are in the 50s and the 40s. That's bad because this cholesterol is basis of hormones. So when you have really low cholesterol, your total cholesterol is, say 80 or 75, and that's your total. Your HDL might be 35 and your LDL might be, I don't know, 60 or 70. They have trouble with their hormones. So we want to be around 150, 200 for the total cholesterol. And, for women, it should be above 50. HDL is a slippery one. And that slippery one is also absorbent, and it can take some of the LDL cholesterol out of our bloodstream to bring it to our liver to help make more hormones and just stop getting the sticky one all in the blood and everything. Yeah, the LDL is lousy, and it's very sticky. It heals damaged blood vessels. It patches them, and then the HDL goes over top and makes it slippery again. Yeah, when your heart beats, your toes get blood, and that's because it's so slippery, and that's the HDL helping the inside of the veins be so slippery. So HDL is, yeah, if somebody's good cholesterol, I think it could even be 120 to 220 something, your total cholesterol. Those are good ranges, but it really matters the breakdown of the LDL and the HDL, and you want to have as much HDL as you can get. 100 would be beautiful, but it's super tough. You increase your HDL cholesterol with exercise and water. So try to move around, and you reduce your LDL cholesterol with exercise and water. Of course, when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, that can increase your LDL for some reason. Has to do with the liver being so busy managing the high blood sugar. So reducing your carbohydrates. You would think that with cholesterol, it would be the fats. The saturated fat does give the building blocks for LDL cholesterol, but exercise and water should be able to zero that out.
I heard something about one of them that you should cut down if you eat a lot of bacon or something like that.
Yeah, that's a saturated fat, and that would be also increasing your LDL cholesterol, but it's more than just a saturated fat. We do not need to have saturated fat. Saturated fat comes in coconut oil. It doesn't, but otherwise it's all the animals. The butter, the cheese, and the beef, and the fish, they all have a little bit of saturated fat. The fish are going to have more omega-3. Grass-fed beef also has a lot of omega-3, but it also has some saturated fat. Everything is a mix. I wish it would be black and white and be so simple, but they're finding more and more exercise is so beneficial. If you have regular exercise in your life, they looked at women over 50, and they watched them for 20 years. And the ones that had regular exercise reduced their Alzheimer's by 90%. So our brains need circulation. So that's a good thing. Okay, so we got the A1C. Do you have more questions? I should ask, does anybody else have any questions? You just have to unmute, and then I can hear your questions. Okay, so we talked about A1C, we talked about blood pressure, we talked about cholesterol. Do y'all have any other questions? God, you're full of questions. I love it. I appreciate it.
I mean, we're going to get to, like you said, oral medication. Last week you said you talk about insulins and non-insulins and all that.
I can talk about that.
I mean, I don't know. I just saw the oral.
Yeah. Now this is a chart from 2012, and it was made like in the early 2000s, where they're still not realizing the benefits of especially the oh my gosh, I can't remember the flaxins. So good Jardians and these kind of things. The flaxin medicines that work on your kidneys, they don't know. They didn't know a lot about that kind of thing. So now it used to be when you had high cholesterol and high A1C, of course, A1C, high blood sugar, and it was in the range of the diabetes. It wasn't even the pre-diabetes. Once it's in the range of diabetes, so 6.5 or higher for the A1C, then they instructed the doctors to give metformin and tell people about lifestyle changes. I don't know what your doctors told you about lifestyle changes, but apparently the advice for lifestyle changes is improve your lifestyle. They didn't tell you need to exercise after meals. They didn't talk about, getting enough sleep and reducing your stress and, all these kind of things. So this mask is different. It stays up, but sometimes I can't breathe. You'll see it like go in. But so now the recommended, if they have somebody who's newly diagnosed with diabetes, never had the test for the pre-diabetes or anything, now the test is you come in, you get metformin, you get the flaxin medicine, that works with your kidneys. And if you're high, like 11, not 7.5, you also get one of the other medicines. I can't remember which one it is, to make sure you don't get heart disease. So and of course they're talking about a lifestyle change, and they are talking about coming to diabetes classes, but hello, I'm only looking at 3 of you right now. So we got to get the word out, and we really feel that the population, the people who are diagnosed is about 12 or 10 or 12% in Philadelphia, and that's pretty much average for the cities in the United States. 10 or 12. I think Hawaii and the Pacific West, they're genetically, with their diet and how they live, they can be as much as 15 to 18%. I mean, diabetes is really bad in the Pacific. So in the United States, just in the United States, okay, those are the people who are diagnosed and know that they think that with pre-diabetes, it's only like 1/3 of the people know. So we're looking at more like 30% of the population having something to do with, pancreas troubles. So, and insulin and that kind of thing. So I'm a diabetes educator and I'm a dietitian, so I talk about it a lot. But we need to get the word out that meat is the one that's difficult on the pancreas, and to have more vegetables in your diet. Anywhere I go, I try to give the information. So the oral medicines now, there are 8 classes of medicines, and one of them is diabetes. So there's 7 different ways. There's things that change the 5 different parts of our body. Do you remember that one diagram off the top of my head? Of course, it's metformin for the liver. It's the floxins for the kidneys, like Jardiance. There's DPP, which is an enzyme that lasts in your intestines. Were you thinking about that I would tell you what the medicines are in the different classes? Because I did not bring that paper, and off the top of my head, it's pretty tough.
No, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking, but last time you might have said that some you could take, you might have to take every meal or something, and then some you could take once a day.
Okay.
And I didn't know whether there's some that you could take at the week, but I didn't know whether or not there were some that were kind of like not insulin, but they did something, and then you had some that were insulin.
That's right.
They're different kinds.
That's right.
I was
So
thinking like that.
So there are some pills that you take that are not insulin. It's metformin and Actos. There's a few other ones, Ribelsis and things. The Actos works on the stomach so that it holds food in there longer, so you don't eat as much. So that's a good way to reduce your calories, lose weight, not have the insulin have to give so much insulin so that you can get the sugar out of your cells. Gives your pancreas a break. So that's Actos. And then the other one, of course, metformin, is where your sugar, when you go to sleep at night, then you're not eating. So the liver saves up sugar during the day, and at night gives you a little bit so that it's like you're eating, it keeps you healthy. But with people who have diabetes, often the liver is just dripping sugar all day long, and it's just too much, and we don't need that much. So metformin cuts that off. It's like a leaking faucet, metformin turns that off. So you only get it when you need it. And so off the top of my head, those are 2 medicines that that you would take every day. Metformin you can take twice a day, and Actos you take before meals. There's a variety of different oral meds that DPP for enzymes that work in your intestines, and then there's things that work in your pituitary gland. Of course, there's things that make your pancreas give out more, like sulfonylureas, that make your pancreas give you more insulin when it's time. These are all pills. Now, the injection is the GLP-1s, and the GLP-1, it does a variety of things, but Ozempic is one, and you'd only take it once a day. Well, actually, that's Victoza, but Ozempic you only take once a week. So some of these.
I see someone who had Trulicity or maybe Tresiba or.
Yeah, that one I think also has some GLP-1 in it, and these are injections, and that you would actually know. I have to look at my paper off the top of my head. Yeah, but the big thing is it's not always insulin. Now, with insulin, of course, this is talking about going along without changing your diet, without changing your exercise, without changing your medicines, what typically happens. And if you just keep on the same old medicine, you go from metformin to maybe they'll add the Jardiance or something to it, and then you go to insulin. And this is where they're showing, look, there's no branch. Everybody is on insulin, and that is not the way it is. There's 8 different branches. And some people, they just have to use insulin, like type 1. They start off at insulin right when they're diagnosed. They diagnosed it with a GAD antibody. And if you have those GAD antibodies, then they say, oh, you have type 1. You're not getting any insulin at all. There are people who are type 1. There's a whole group of them that are type 1, and they're able to not have insulin, but they're doing it with a very high fat diet, a keto diet, and diabetic ketoacidosis. This is where you're getting your energy from fats and proteins instead of from carbohydrates. And so they're doing more of this high fat, low carb, super low carb diet, and they're exercising. But this way, they're able to get the sugar out of their bloodstream and into their cells because of the exercise. And exercise does more than just open insulin doors, insulin receptor doors. It also does force some sugar into the cell. But the basic thing is that it converts fats into energy for the cell. And that way, with a very low diet, yeah, you may have an excess of cholesterol because you have such a high fat diet. But if you're exercising and drinking plenty of water, again, that brings it down so that it's a whole balancing act. So, and I also know some type 1s who are athletes, and they know if they can ingest like jelly beans or something that, fruit snacks, something that is really going to pump up your blood sugar, and then they can take extra insulin, it can get all that sugar out of their bloodstream and into their cells so they're able to perform like Superman. So there's that whole thing on there too, because if you can give your cells extra energy, then you can move on a whole lot faster.
You had said type 1. How about in Europe? Where they start you off in insulin?
Yeah, they start you off here in the United States too. No, they do it here too, and it's really somebody who does not want to do it, and they're very adamant, and they're able to, show the doctor.
They want to go right to insulin. In Europe, I thought even if you're type 2,
the pills, the oral medications and other diabetes and medications are only for type 2, late onset type 2.
Europe, they start you with insulin no matter what.
No, Europe is where these medicines have really developed and done really well. Metformin started being used in Europe in the 60s, 68, something like that. We didn't get metformin until the 90s. So, they figured out a lot of this other stuff instead of just going to insulin. And even insulin wasn't started to being used until the 40s, after World War II. I mean, they used to call it the flushing disease. And the way they would have people get better is they're on an exercise bike 11 hours a day. I mean, it kind of shows you how the cells can get energy, but you have to be moving around. So it's something. Let's see, this says keeping your blood glucose on target. 80 to, I say 140, that's a good range. If you wake up and you're 80 to 140, that's great. Like before meals, 130 or 140 and below, that's all good. But after your meals, I've been having a bunch of trouble. People are panicking. They're checking their blood sugar within an hour of eating, and they're in the 200s. And I'm like, of course you're in the 200s. You just ate. Just let your body settle down, and you want it to be under 180. And they're like, well, if I wait until 2 hours later, you don't see my blood sugar. That's the blood sugar we're looking for. So when they say after meals, 180, that's 2 hours after you start eating a meal. And in France, they eat meals for 2 hours and 20 minutes. So they're going to be checking their blood sugar during the meal. That's crazy. It's wonderful, though, to have a long meal like that. Oh, I wish we could all do that. But our culture is not set up to do that. They also show that when you have a group of people eating together, that people, their blood sugars don't go up as high as if somebody's eating alone, which I think is very interesting. Okay, so we got the ABCs, we got the keeping your blood glucose on target, less than 180, 2 hours after a meal. You want your A1C to be below 7.5. We got some short-term complications if your high blood sugars all the time with thirst, going to the bathroom, hungry, also all the time hungry. Some people have headaches, some people have vision, a little blurred vision. Most people don't have any symptoms. I think I told you about the woman who came into the office. This is back in the fall last year, I guess. And she had a 590 and she's walking around just fine. And they didn't give her insulin, they gave her water. So water is the best thing to bring it down when it's so high. Low blood sugar is going to be confusion and shakiness, sweating when it's cold and that kind of thing. It's like you're starving. You could eat everything in the house. But low blood sugar, you don't want to be in that situation. So try to have, something when you wake up in the morning, something midday, and something in the evening. So we did natural course of diabetes. I hate this thing here. It says in type 2 diabetes, there's a gradual loss of the beta cells that make insulin. Over time, there is not enough of these cells to meet the insulin needs of the body and to keep the blood glucose in the target range. we have found that the way that you can heal your beta cells in your pancreas, give your pancreas a break, is to have more vegetables and less meat. If you're going to be on the meat and potatoes diet where you get this much potatoes and this much meat, you're going to definitely right down the road for diabetes and heart attack and stroke. And the heart attack and stroke are from high blood sugars, messing things up, clotting and all that kind of thing. So this is not true. I don't like this natural course. We can always reverse it. And unless you're already been in 11 and you've been there for 5 years and all these damage has already happened, then, once the damage has happened, then it's not a good thing. But, you guys are walking around thinking and talking. I think you're in good shape. So the thing is, when you have high blood sugar and say you get a little scratch, bacteria loves the sugar in your blood, and your blood knows there's a scratch there. So it comes so that it can make a scab. So those two things coming together can cause infection. So, and that is if you, and the other thing is when you have so much sugar in your blood, that sugar molecule is huge and it sticks together and it causes, it's too big to get into the capillaries, and the capillaries are what feed our nerves. So when we have blocked nerves, they die. And if then you don't feel, your toes or your fingers or your sight, or you have trouble and interior in your belly, you might have slow digestion, gastroparesis, and that kind of thing. So when this sugar blocks the nerves, it can cause all these problems, whether that's funny. Heart attack and stroke, that's again, the blood vessels are blocked. Kidney disease, kidneys are microscopic, the way they filter the urine out of our blood. And if that get blocked with sugar, then that gets a problem. Eye complications, again, we have this amazing brain, we have this amazing eyeball, and it's connected with this one nerve and one capillary. So that's where people, can really have vision problems. Also glaucoma, there's a bunch of different things. Sexual dysfunction is very big. The artery that feeds our body is as big as like a McDonald's straw, but the artery that goes to our sexual organs is like a stir stick. It's kind of like the canary in the coal mine. When there's some blockages, whether it's a fat or plaque or high sugars, that's the first thing to go. And that's a super bummer. They want to have a really good life. So I wanted to make sure everybody knows about sexual dysfunction. But the nerve damage is what I was just talking, and that can lead to, of course, foot complications. I was talking with somebody and they had a tack in their shoe and it was pointed up. It was stuck in their heel all day. So it can be really numb feet. We don't want to get to that stage. And again, moving around circulation, that can break up those little sugar block, things so that you have good circulation. And then skin complications, that's where I said, even if you just get a little scratch and a little blood comes, put a Band-Aid and some ointment on it. Cuts heal faster when they're wet, not when they get a scab and get dried out. That doesn't work as well. Depression and gum disease. Gum disease, anybody can get gum disease, whether you have diabetes or not, but make sure we see our dentist because sore tooth can increase our blood sugar. I was just on the phone with a lady and she's like, well, I don't know about this food thing because I, do all these things and nothing changes. My sugars just keep going up and up. And I ended up talking to her about, you're going to the eye doctor, going to the dentist. And she said, yeah, eye doctor, but I haven't been to the dentist in a while. And I only chew on one side. I'm having this pain in her. And I'm like, well, that's why your blood sugar is up. You can do any kind of diet. But if you're going to have a pain, oh, I thought that you said something. If you have a toothache, then you're gonna have high blood sugar. The only other thing is, depression. This is so funny. And they're finding that with the nerve damage, our brains are not making the dopamine that with serotonin and all of this to make dopamine to make us sad. So we always talk about, and what can make you happier? Exercise. You see a recurring theme here about the exercise. And yeah, so all of these things, again, with better circulation and moving around is really key. You want to try to be literally out of breath every, at least once a day for 15 minutes. So if there's a staircase or there's a hill, something that we can get, and different people are different ways. I have a 450-pound blind guy and he gets out of breath just by going 10 steps. But it takes him, 10 steps and maybe 5 steps out and 5 steps back. That can take about 5 minutes. So everybody is at a different scale. I have other people who just started with diabetes and they literally have to go on a 2 or 3 mile run. And they can do it in about 40 minutes, they're really, or maybe even a half an hour, I think they were saying. So 3 miles and a half an hour. I mean, that's a pretty good clip, 6 miles an hour. Yeah, so everybody's a little bit different, and you got to figure out what works for you. So we talked about the oral medicines, all these different pills that you take either before meals or once a day or twice a day. The other medicines, what other, yeah, oh, I guess they mean some of the medicines that are injectables, so like the Ozempic or the Victoza, those type of things. Insulin, again, there's actually 4 different kinds of insulin. There's the NPH and regular. So that only lasts about 12 hours. So that you would take in the morning and at dinner. And the morning one will carry you over for lunch. And then just before dinner, you would take it and that will cover you for the night. I think you only take it twice. Yeah, I believe that's right. But then there's the Humalog and the Amylog that you take with your meals. And you look at how many carbs you're having with that meal. And that's how many units you would take it. If you're going to have, pizza, you're going to maybe take 4 or 10 units. But if you're having a salad with some chicken, you might only take 2 units. So really, that's where counting comes into play. With a pump, you would look at your blood sugar and you would plan if it's a small meal or a big meal and just hit the button and the pump can do it. There's another one you can wear. You fill it with insulin. It lasts for about 3 days. It's called Vigo. I don't know what the V stands for, but it's a spring-loaded thing. And you take your Lantus, but then no, it's a spring-loaded thing. You don't take anything else. And this just drips a little bit of insulin all day long. And then if you have a meal that has a hoagie or something with more carbs, you just you cock it and you push a button. It's pretty simple, and you can do it over your clothes. So if you're at a business meeting or something and they serve, bread or donuts or whatever, you can go click, click, and you give yourself your insulin, and you don't have to be excused, and you don't have to lift your shirt up or pants or. I think it's fantastic, but when I was at the endocrinologist, nobody wants to go on it. The doctor didn't want to prescribe it. He says it's like a baby step for insulin. I'm like, I think it could help people realize, and then they wouldn't eat so many carbs because they know they're wasting their insulin by.
People trying to figure out the carbs and how much with the ones that you take before a meal.
Mm-hmm. And if you have Medicare, it covers Dexcom. That's the CGM. But
And I'm sure insurance probably is another factor with that one.
the Vigo, it's cheap. I mean, Metformin, the Medtronic pump, I think that's like a couple $1,000s. This thing is something that you replace twice a week. And I don't, maybe it's $30 a month or something. It's definitely realistic, but you can't use much insulin in it. Like I have somebody who's taking 92 units at night. No, this would last one day. They would have to have 7 a week, 30 a month. So like I said, there's so many options out there. We don't need to stick, if something isn't fitting your lifestyle or your budget or whatever, talk to your doctor, and also talk to the manufacturer who makes that medicine. My father was on Eliquis, and I've heard people with Eli Lilly, they can just call that company and say, I'm going to switch to another medicine because I can't afford yours. Oh, let me give you a coupon so you only pay $10 a month. So if there's something with your medicines and you don't like the price, either talk to your doctor to get you on a cheaper one, a different one, or call the company. Really? Oh, geez, I wonder, you're right.
The most you ever pay for a Xarelto was $30. Just came on Medicare. They don't can't do anything like that on
Any
Medicare.
the government programs aren't working.
Well, is Xarelto $800 a month for you? Is it super expensive? Because my parents are on, then now Medicaid is different. It used to be for people who don't have much income, and now it's not. It's for people who are on expensive medicines. So talk to somebody about Medicaid or Google about that, because I think that's how my parents were able to get on these programs with Medicaid, because they had Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicare, and with these things, with whatever it is I know my mother said, can you believe we got on Medicaid? And everybody's on it. It's a totally different thing now because these medicines are so expensive. They are. Yeah. And Ozempic, you just take once a week, right? Yeah, once a week. We talked about this. Insulin, is the hormone that opens the doors so that the sugar can go from the blood into the cells. It says insulin is a hormone made by the beta cells in the pancreas. The beta cells release insulin to help the body use more of the glucose from the blood instead of having it just recirculate all the time. It actually gets it in the cells. What else do we have here? Resources, your support network, your healthcare team. Yeah, definitely keep up with your dentist and your eye doctor, your heart doctor, everybody, skin doctor, just, once a year, twice a year, whatever your issues are, definitely be in touch with them, especially with diabetes. A lot of podiatrists are talking to me, they're taking my cards. They want people to see me. Support network, of course, it's your friends and your family and your doctors. This class, tell your friends. And then the other resources like talking with Medicaid and here are the companies that run the medicines, the companies that make them, manufacturers and that type of thing. Here we have this bridge of going on medicine, but over here we have healthy eating. And again, I don't think we have anybody else on Zoom. Nope, we're still at 2. So if anybody has questions, you guys are really good about answering questions. Healthy eating, like we talked about last week, just balancing the meat with more vegetables. Meat and the starches, multi-grain things, something that has a lot of fiber, vitamin B. The whole grain things are going to give you a lot more nutrition than white bread or even wheat bread. Whole wheat bread is not as nutritious as multi-grain bread. So look at that, because right now first of all, the wheat is an immature plant. They can get 3 crops that are like knee height. It used to be 1 crop that was shoulder height. So this is a more mature seed. Now there's much more delicate seed. Yeah, it is technically wheat and it does give, what you need, but it really shoots our sugars up. There is no difference between having white bread and brown bread. It is just not making the difference that we were hoping to see. But we do see it when you're having more multigrain, in toast and things. So having multigrain, having lots of vegetables, a little bit of protein. We don't need as much as we thought we did. How much you eat, again, you want to be able to have enough breakfast that can hold you to lunch, enough lunch that you're kind of full for dinner. If you can have less food at the end of the day and more food for breakfast and lunch, you're going to be better. Lunch is the key. And I was just talking to a special ed teacher and her kids eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning, 10:20. And she's just like, I get there at 7. I'm just not hungry at 10:20. So she, watches them having their meals and helps them with all their meals and things. And then later on in the afternoon, while they're doing a project, she's like wolfing down some yogurt or some granola. But she gets home at 4:30 and she's like blind. She's so hungry. She doesn't have diabetes, by the way. She's just so hungry. And I said, you need to do something where you can somehow have some kind of a soup, something that you can eat fast while they're doing their project, that is going to give you a lot more nutrition. And she's also bumping up her breakfast. So we're going to talk next week. Well, the children, they get there at 7 and I think they have a breakfast. Then they eat at 10:30. I think they're excused around 3:30. And between 10:30 and 3:30, they have something around 1. So they're having snacks like every 3 hours. And honestly, she's telling me there's days when she eats something every hour because she can never just get a meal in. And I'm like, that is so hard on your pancreas. So if you could just give it a break for 3 or 4 hours or 6 hours. And so
One grandson, at come 10 o'clock, 10:15, he starts losing interest and all. And she wound up giving him a little snack, a little protein and stuff, set him up. He knew that he couldn't wait for lunch.
So that's interesting. He was losing his attention span if he was a little bit hungry. So you said that she would feed him like every 2 or 3 hours. Yeah.
That's all like, and then in the afternoon, he doesn't really have.
They have a good lunch and then he's okay. Because I don't know about you guys, I'm pretty much done in the afternoon. I can't pay attention to things in the afternoon. It's a long day. But that's very interesting. And maybe.
School that want us November 11th.
Ooh.
Kids go back in Upper Marion.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what's going to happen there, like, around that time.
Yeah, schools are very,
And it's a 5-day.
5 days going back in person. Wow. Well, now the schools are using their gyms as classrooms and their athletic fields as classrooms, and they're setting up tents. And, I've seen they're really spreading the kids out but still using them on campus. So what you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat. Again, I hate to say breakfast, lunch, and dinner because everybody's on a different schedule. I have this one when she wakes up at 10:30 and I'm like, okay, just eat something by, 1:30 or whatever, 12:30, 10:30 to 1:30. Yeah, 12:30. So 2 hours, within that 2 hours, have a little something, even if it's just, berries and nuts. But if you can have a full breakfast, that's great. And same thing with lunch, having whatever you have for dinner, have that for lunch. If there's any way that I've been having these Zoom calls, even this class from 12 to 1, this is when I should really be having dinner. So we're going to have it at 1:30 today. But, and look at the plant-based proteins because they're lower in fat. They can help us lose weight. Everybody's gaining weight with less activity now on the quarantine. So, and not having much, 4 hours before you go to bed, that should not be much of a meal. It shouldn't be the most, your breakfast and lunch should be double what your dinner is. That never is the case. It's usually breakfast and lunch equals half of what your dinner is. So we need to have more during the day and less in the evening. Again, there's been a lot of research with acid reflux, the GERD, and they were trying to figure out how can we reduce it. And they found that the digestive system does great. During the day when the sun is out and we're moving around, you can digest anything and we get the most nutrition from it. By the time it's dark and we're tired and we're sitting and watching news or whatever, or just a TV show or something, we're not active, the digestion doesn't work very well. And the one thing that it can digest, carbs. So either don't have hardly any carbs for dinner. I don't know if that's possible, having a little bit of fish or vegetables, but, having more for breakfast and lunch, you're not going to be that hungry for dinner. And having, drinking when you think you're hungry. Herbal tea is wonderful, the jasmine or the mint, all these kind of things. So try that before having, the chips and salsa and everything we have later at night. So when you eat, again, try not to have anything within 3 hours of going to bed. It's a trick. It's really difficult. And then over here, they have keeping active. Well, they say sitting less and move more. That's not very helpful. So again, try after a meal, within the 2 hours of eating a meal, do something where you get out of breath, whether it's going up and down the stairs, walking around the block. Often my husband and I will be like last night, I think it was 9:45. And I said, I'm going to bed early. He goes, well, I'm just going to walk around the block with the dog. And I would say the length of our street before we got to this, where you make the block, we ended up going out for like, I don't know, it wasn't 40 minutes, but it was at least 20 minutes. And we thought we were just going to go out for like 5. Once you get moving, it rejuvenates you. Then we see people, believe it or not, in Ambler, there's people on the street and some of them are our friends and they're talking to the dogs and all this kind of thing. So who knew? But sitting less and moving more, yeah, if we can get just a couple times a day, 15, 20 minutes is good. Checking for problems, every office visit, every 3 to 6 months and once a year. Once a year is definitely, it depends on how your diabetes is progressing. If you can see your endocrinologist or your PCP, your regular general doctor, once a year, then you're in good shape. So every 3 to 6 months, every 6 months would be your doctor, your eye doctors every year, your regular doctor. Everything is every year, except I believe the podiatrist, especially with Medicare, I think you can see them every 6 weeks, right? Every 9 weeks now? Okay, so yeah. And when you go to your doctor's appointment, since you're only seeing them every 3 months or every 6 months or every year, definitely write a list. The doctor only has 15 minutes. And they're not easy to catch. We all have those portals and things, but, before you go to a doctor, if you can write down what your questions are, because, he's going to see everything's rosy, right? And you're like, yeah, I feel good. No, when you're feeling bad, write those things down and say, I have headaches or I have stomach aches or, I am gaining weight or I can't lose weight or, my hip hurts or whatever. And he can look into it and recommend a specialist. And then, what's happening. But so the biggest thing that I wanted to say today is, yes, we're all going to have some aches and pains and high blood sugars and, shortness of breath or whatever it's going to be. But we got to think about things positively. Yay, I did do 15 minutes of exercise today. If you want to have a chart or, just a little thing that mental note, okay, I moved around or, I drank my amount of water. At home, I have a 16-ounce glass and I put 4 rubber bands on there. And every time, and it doesn't have to be water. The first glass is half V8 and the other half of it is tea. So and then I'll have another glass that's maybe a protein shake. And then I'll have another glass that's going to be lime seltzer or whatever. But just so I can get through 4 16-ounce cups. Because once I get talking, I forget. And then it's like 9 o'clock at night and I have 3 rubber bands on that thing. So every time I take a drink of the 16 ounces, then I put the rubber band back. So that way it can help you figure out, do you need 4 of those glasses? Do you need 5 of those glasses? I don't have my calculator here, but basically you take your weight and multiply by 10. So if you weighed 150, it would be 1,500. And then so take your weight, add a 0 to it, and then divide by 30. And that will tell you how many ounces to maintain your joints and your skin and your digestion and all that kind of thing. So take your weight, add a 0 to it, and then divide by 30, and that'll tell you the ounces. But so if it was 150, then it would be 1,500 divided by 30. So that's 50 ounces. So you don't need 60 ounces. You only need 50. So that would be like 4 12-ounce glasses. As a smaller person, they don't need as much. Where if you are, say, 300 pounds and that would be 3,000 divided by 30, then you need 10, you need 100 ounces of fluids. So that's almost a gallon. A gallon is like 120, 128. So something to think about. And like I said, I can't keep track. Every day is the same. You guys find that? I'm so happy for this Wednesday class. And I'm like, oh, Wednesday, something different. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I can't believe it. And then, and so the same thing with the rubber bands, and they can be different colors, whatever vegetable comes in a rubber band, I just save those. I don't do anything special, but I found that really helps other people and it helps me too. And right now it's getting cooler, so we're not drinking as much. So, and water just, helps with everything. So I'm so glad to see you guys. Next week is the 4th day of the month. Is it? Yeah, the 27th. I would love to do a cooking class, but we're not going to be able to do that. So I think I'm going to do food again. Is there anything because you guys are my favorite audience, is there anything that you want me to do special with food? Like talk about recipes or talk about, I can do meal planning again and talk about, but I could talk about breakfast foods or lunch foods or, I don't know, think about it. You got, well, Ted, you have my email. kfpuskar@gmail.com. If you ever want anything, just email me. And it's on my card. It's on my website, Ambler Nutrition. Yeah, my website's on, my email's on there too. But I love hearing from you guys.